take you on a journey through time and space. The most strangest of places, the decade known as the 70s. Picture this. You're at lunch with your sweet Betty Boo Boo discussing the comings and goings of the time.
Oh, Robert, how happy I am to be with you at this time. The 70s decade, no particular year, just this time frame.
Shut up.
Okay.
Jeez, it's pretty swell being here eating this sandwich with my obligatory woman. And me in my obligatory man suit. I mean, nothing could upset this place we live in with our plaid suits.
You hear something?
All I hear is you talking too much. Hoa!
Sorry.
Wait, shh, your pretty slut mouth, I hear something. What in God's name is that?
With a new scene, don't mess with us, so you're gonna get freaked up by us. Yeah.
Before the internet, the average person wasn't able to spectate the ongoings of niche groups. People like flat earthers and furries would be absolutely unthinkable to the average person. Probably be very jaw-dropping to actually meet one of them with no context behind what they actually are. Put yourself in the shoes of someone coming out of an 80-hour work shift in the coal mine. Some little freak is running down the streets going,
Yeah, let me if you.
Disgusting!
You'd probably want to shoot him. That's why I say it would be an experience quite unimaginable to meet an alternative community like the Goths. Dare I say it could be a culture shock. But I'm getting ahead of myself because Gothic movement isn't even on its baby legs in this time frame. It hadn't even been established as its own music genre yet. In fact, Goth wasn't even thought of its own individual identity until the late 70s and early 80s. Beforehand, it was considered an offshoot of punk called Gothic rock, which in this context is defined as rock with dark themes, such as, and not limited to, big void vibes, scoopity scoopity scary things, dropping a Mars bar, kissing your cousin, and just plain old meth. An almost exact parallel to their punk anger roots is just replaced with feeling bad, man. Counterculture to a counterculture. The untrained eye, these two groups would seem almost the exact same in almost every single way, but these two could not be any more different. Example, punks wore green and black, and goths wore pink and black, which is a huge difference. And there's absolutely no way either of them were huge nerds. By rebelling against the capitalist machine by praising capitalist entities like rock bands. Pretty epic, bro. Hey man, we're going to the Cure concert tonight. You in?
You know, in my back cave, I can't wait to show the man what's up by slowly moving my body. It's really boring, just so boring and stupid, but mostly boring guitar chords.
That's right, my little sexy baby boy. Just so smooth, moist.
Okay.
Whoa, where do you think you'll go dressed like that, you slut?
I'm not really a slut.
You need to get your merchandise on so we can show the world what we believe in as a hive mind, and certainly not individuals, which we value, I think.
How can I forget? You're so right back, Daddy. After all, I want to belong to something so bad. I've never had any struggles or real challenges in my life coming from a middle-class home and all.
I'll give you something to struggle about. Moving on, there's 3 main factors which make up the goth subculture in my opinion, which we will dive into and dissect together, because despite my meanness towards their ideology, there is still some value towards this group. This is absolutely fascinating to see one of the first old groups in history blossom from edgy middle-class white kids which are rebelling for some reason to whatever the hell happened with all of these. You're gonna have a group, you're gonna have a general message surrounding your group. Not like Christians didn't have a fair understanding of J to the C's teachings, did they? Also no different, but as opposed to a book, they use the whole damn shebang. All the art forms, including music, film, poetry, and everything else in between, would help, even if not directly, shape the movement's ideology and views. A great example would be a look at goth stars and fashion. Normal conventional clothing of the time were plaid colors. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm very sick. Normal conventional clothes at the time were plaid bright colors and neon pink. So bright that they could blind your eyes and make a person really stand out. The Jews totally disregarded this norm in favor of more black and unfriendly clothing. Inspired by dread fiction and Elizabethan high society, albeit a lot more brutal. The style choice was reflected by early goth icons like, God help me, I will never pronounce this woman's name right, Suix.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the High Priestess of Punk, the one, the only, Susie Sue is here!
I'm gonna call her Socks. Anyway, Mrs. Socks' style was imitated by all the little goth boys and all the little goth girls. In fact, Mrs. Socks was so influential on the gothic clothing movement, she was given the grand title of Godmother of Goths. This might be more of a reference to her musical ability, but I very much doubt that her clothing had nothing to do with that illustrious title. Her approach to style was described as like a mismatch between glam rock and a tomboy. A weird dash of horror just in there for a little bit of fun. To the modern thick emo girl, give her an ass load of hair wax, make it look like a hedgehog, and there you are, the base style of gothic fashion. Which is still imitated to this day actually. More than just musics that got kids out there in their Halloween pumpkin outfits. Film had a huge part in shaping the identity of goth. Movies like Nosferatu 1922, with cryptic castles and long winding hallways jam-packed with all sorts of candlelit nightmares and long flowy black dresses helped mold the aesthetic of goth drapes and capes. Hell, even literature was a surprising source of muse. I'm so sorry I'm running out of synonyms to Google to make me sound smarter. Authors like Edgar Allan Poe, Mary Shelley, H.P. Lovecraft, do not Google the cat's name, and Anna Rice of the Vampire Chronicles all were inspirations for the mindset in goth culture, both in past and present. All of these authors had one thing prevalent in their work: death.
Just think. Someday we'll be buried here, side by side, 6 feet under, in matching coffins.
To me, the root of gothic culture is centered around this idea of death, the finality of existence. I'm in pain, I am very sick. Also, don't mind my teeth, they're really yellow. Shit, I need a regular brush my teeth, look at that. No, Mumsy, I don't want to wipe my ass off to write shit. What's the point? We're all gonna die anyways. Ass itch is just my pain. I conform to a society that seeks comfort in denying the inevitable. Wouldn't it be better to embrace our demise as nothing truly matters? That, my friends, brings us to our second core value, number 2. They take our black bangs, but you'll never take our freedom. A bit cringe for my own taste, mate. Although goths cherish death in their media, they're not too keen on dying themselves, because for the most part they're quite happy, friendly, welcoming people. They're very keen on welcoming newcomers such as yourself and me into their group and explaining why they dress and act the way they do. That's because, believe it or not, they don't hate everything. They just hate the status quo. Above all things, the movement's roots are in rebellion. Freedom to express yourself in any way you see fit. You shouldn't be made to feel like an outcast because you have a varied opinion or taste. The more hardcore of the gothic folk feel that on a grand scale, the establishment is at fault for allowing what is acceptable within society. They feel that for society to truly flourish, acceptance of every creed, kin, race, or religion must come into effect. Oddly enough, without even meaning to, the goth subculture was one of the earliest allies of the LGBTQ. In fact, a direct quote from the wiki is, "Since the late 1970s, the UK goth scene refused traditional standards of sexual priority and accepted and celebrated unusual, bizarre, or deviant sexual practices." Translation, they are very, very, very horny vampires. Much like the LGBTQ, goths are known to drape ambiguous clothing. Women can wear combat boots and the men can wear dresses. Whatever made them happy was largely seen as okay in the group because they saw themselves as a mismatch of misfits, fighting against the perfect image of what society accepts a person should be. Now, hear me clearly, the goth and punk movement were not the only groups who were trying to shift the idea of what was acceptable within society. Groups like Queen were in the woodworks, but goth explored the more depressive pitfalls of the old and the new. It's not like stars like David Bowie formed an entire political stance around his genre. At least not to the same degree. We've covered the goth ideology, origins, and history. Now comes the fun bit. hell even is goth in a modern context? I won't sugarcoat it because honestly there truly is no simple answer. Because of how long this movement's actually been going on and the amount of times its identity has been shifted, there are numerous splintered groups. It's quite literally impossible to put a pin in any of it. So let's start with my favorite subsection, the cybergoths. Sporting bright blue colors mixed in with black, they normally listen to rave music and dance in the best possible way. This isn't even a movement, this is just literally them having a good time and I'm all for it. It's like the movie Blade come to life with electronic music, EDM, and trance. A very, very far stretch from their roots. The vampire goths. These people literally believe they are vampires. There is no word of irony. They will drink blood, they believe they can turn into bats, and they believe they can fly away in the night. They enjoy graveyards and coffins and anything spooky-doo-doopity. I don't know how many of them actually believe they are part of the dark occult, but there are one or two genuine people out there who really think they are vampires. And of course we've got the traditional goths, the boring ones who think they're rebelling against the capitalist system. They listen to a mix of both punk and emo and goth music. These are the ones who truly see their group as something meaningful in modern society. They yearn for the day that The Cure would play live in their hometown. And some of them despise what the goth scene has turned into with the likes of emo rap, quote unquote, tainting the pure aesthetic of the genre. Goth boomers. We also got the Victorian goths. Pretty much they like the Victorian era. They like the long flowy dresses, they like the occult aspirations, they like the doomy gloom of old England and old Germany. Picture Notre Dame, that would be their ideal home and setting. You've also got your Lolita goths, a subgenre which comes out of Japan, which mixes Hello Kitty, bright pinks, neons, everything you can imagine from Japanese aesthetic. Apparently goth music and emo music is a huge genre over there in Japan and is quite popular in underground nightclubs. They're usually seen wearing very big combat heel boots as well as carrying around stuffed animals and backpacks. Very similar to the cyber goths but not 110% exactly that. And finally we have the pagan goths. These are the people who play with the Ouija boards. They believe in the occult and magic existing in the world. They mostly enjoy the aesthetic, but they fancy themselves modern witches and they'll put a hex on you. Sorry. Truth be told, this subsection of goths would probably be sat around in a dark room, 4 of them lighting candles, drinking cheap wine and going, "Hookity bookity, ookity bookity, make my dick a lookily lookily." And that's all of the ones that I find interesting. To be honest with you, they are a very diverse and interesting group of people with their own belief systems that have spread out through different generations, times, and bands. As far as what I can tell of what used to be a bunch of rebels fighting against the corrupt government system has just been enveloped by that system. In closing, I'd like to say I'm absolutely fascinated and enthralled by this subsection of people who have at least inspired the world in an artistic sense. I guess in a way the goths really did pave a way forward for people who wanted to explore the more seedy side of man and have it be acceptable. So thank you sorta to those trailblazers who kind of did something. If you'd please subscribe to my YouTube channel, I will be making more culture shocks and maybe a few litty skitties. Till next time, have a spooky time.